John. Not see him. You've got to be joking.
Do I look like I'm joking, honey?
No, you don't.
That's because I'm not. Now, this business between you and Johnny Fletcher is getting too thick for my taste.
Dad, don't you trust me?
Well, sure I trust you, honey. You're as fine a girl as there is. I know that.
Well, then?
Oh, come on now. Don't say it like that's the whole story. Sure, I trust you. But who says I have to trust Johnny Fletcher?
I say you should.
Well, forgive me, honey, but you're not exactly an authority, are you? Don't you think that ought to be a little more my department? After all, I am your father, and I am a little more experienced than you.
Well, I don't think you could know anything about Johnny if you talk like this. Johnny is the kind of person, well, you just trust him anywhere.
Yes, I saw that tonight. Well, let's just say that we'll trust him anywhere but around you.
Dad, John is my friend. My friend, my very best friend. You've got to understand that. You can't just tell him to stay away from me like this.
Peggy, what's the matter?
Oh, Mom, I'm glad you came out. Will you please try to explain something to Dad?
Suppose you let me explain this myself, honey. Now, what do you really know about this Johnny Fletcher?
Well, he's a very nice boy. Why? What's the matter?
Did you know that this very nice boy was here tonight? That he didn't even bother to knock on our door? Instead, he called Peggy out here on our patio, where I happened to find them.
Johnny was here?
Yes, but Dad misunderstands everything. Johnny was feeling awful, just awful. And he wanted to see me alone. He didn't want to see anyone else.
He sure didn't want to see anyone else.
Be quiet a minute, Ben. Honey, what was Johnny's trouble? What did he want to see you about? Come on, honey, you can tell me.
I guess so. I told Dad. Johnny is having an awful time at home. He's having a lot of trouble with Mrs. Fletcher. She told him today that she lost her baby because she fell when she was trying to clean his room. And the worst of it is, and this is really terrible, she blames him for the baby dying.
Oh, no, well, no wonder he's upset.
Oh, sure, sure. Now you're going to go all sentimental over Johnny's problems, too. Look, Johnny was having no problems when I walked out. He was kissing her.
Dad, Johnny didn't kiss me. I kissed him. His face just looked so sad, and I felt sorry for him.
Peggy, it's getting late, honey. Now, why don't you go to bed, and we'll discuss this some other time, all right?
I guess I'd better. Dad. Good night, Dad.
Good night, sweetheart. No kiss for me?
Ben, you have upset her.
Oh, it isn't me that's upset her. It's that Johnny Fletcher who's really upsetting her.
I am amazed at you. I know I shouldn't be, but I am. I thought even you had enough sense not to...
Not to what? To take care of my daughter? I thought you had enough sense to take care of her. I'm amazed that you even let this thing happen.
Let what happen? Peggy has a very nice friend in Johnny Fletcher, and apparently tonight she kissed him. Now, why should that upset you so much?
Now, look, I heard what I heard, and I saw what I saw. Maybe if you cared more for your daughter, if you paid more attention to her, this thing wouldn't have happened.
If I paid more... For over 16 years, you paid no attention to your daughter. You didn't even know if she was alive or dead. You didn't care. And suddenly you're the big, worried father.
Better late than never.
No, better never than stupid meddling like this. Suddenly, after all these years, you come racing back to protect Peggy. And from what? From what? Probably one of the nicest boys she could possibly find.
Well, you think that because you don't know anything about boys. You don't know one thing about these nice boys, but I do. Now, he looks good, and he speaks well, so you and Peggy are bowled over. You're just charmed up to the ears. Well, let me tell you something. I've seen plenty of these Prince Charmings, and they are no bargain. Oh, but you're the smart one, aren't you? You're the one who knows all there is to know about men. Let's
let's just drop it, shall we, Ben?
No, let's just pick it up, shall we? You remember I once warned you about Bill Bauer? I told you that if you weren't careful, he'd get you in trouble, didn't I? But you knew it all, didn't you? So why listen to me? And look what happened.
Ben, that's enough. Now, suppose Peggy hears you.
My error. I got carried away by the memory. And that's all he is, isn't he? Just a memory. And I was right about him after all.
Quiet.
And I'm right about this kid, too, this Johnny Fletcher. So he looks sad and Peggy melts before him. She doesn't know any better. She's just an innocent child.
And I suppose Johnny Fletcher is an ogre in your mind.
No. He's just a boy. Just a boy who's too much on the loose. That's bad enough. Well, if his parents don't know how to tie him up, I will.
What are you talking about?
I'm going to forbid Peggy to see him anymore. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to forbid her to see him because he's bad for her.
Well, if you do, you are out of your mind.
Well, I'd rather be out of my mind than out of my daughter. So now I know a troublemaker when I see one. And his name is Johnny Fletcher.